You're listening to The Wells Report, which will return in 1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world, this is The Wells Report. Good morning, my name is John David Wells. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We do make commentary, but commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion, both yours and mine. And so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate on an historic run of days that the United States has seen and will continue for days and weeks ahead. Specifically, starting internationally, the Israeli response to an historic Iranian strike was boosted by a U.S.-led coalition of warplanes and naval assets that helped to intercept 300 drones, ballistic and cruise missiles. This, according to a U.S. official, as reported by USA Today. We begin our coverage with a report from CBS News, and this is how they saw it as the attack unfolded.
The sky lit up over the Holy Land tonight. Unmanned Iranian drones streaked over the old city of Jerusalem, exploding in the sky as Israel's missile defense system picked them off one by one. They were some of more than 200 drones fired by Iran in an unprecedented attack on Israel.
Iran has launched a direct attack from Iranian soil towards the state of Israel. This is a severe and dangerous escalation. Our defensive and offensive capabilities are at the highest level of readiness.
And by the end of the assault, Israel had managed to fend off most of them. There was one civilian injury and damage to an Israeli military base in the nation's south. Iran's supreme leader said of Israel, the evil regime must be punished for its airstrike on Iran's consulate in Syria, which killed several military officials. And officials say tonight's response appeared to be targeting Israeli military assets. Meanwhile, in Washington, President Biden returned early from his weekend in Delaware and huddled with his national security team. The U.S. military, which was already increasing its footprint in the region, confirms it shot down some of the drones in the coordinated response to Iran's aggression.
U.S. has made it clear that they will do whatever they can to help Israel in this attack, but Iran has also said that if the U.S. helped Israel in this attack, that U.S. troops in the region would become fair game. And so the world has gotten very dangerous tonight, not only for Israel, but for the U.S. as well.
That is indeed true. The U.S. fighter aircraft and guided missile destroyers knocked down some of those incoming missiles and drones. However, as we reported, Israel has indeed taken down most of the attack. Iran's first direct attack on Israel caused minimal damage and casualties. This, by the way, was calculated, it seems, by the Iranian regime. The drones that flew toward Israel flew with their anti-collision lights on. They were not difficult to see. They were very slow moving. They were of limited military capacity. In other words, their capability for destruction was minimal insofar as the warheads were very, very small. Now, that describes the drone attack. It doesn't describe the ballistic missiles or cruise missiles. Those are a different kettle of fish. That required some of the U.S. Navy's assets, specifically Aegis destroyers and Aegis cruisers with the Aegis system, AEGIS, which is amazing when it comes to taking down missiles and so forth. In the days leading up to Iran's attack, according to USA Today, the Pentagon moved assets to the Middle East to aid Israel and protect U.S. forces there. Iran's attack followed the April 1st airstrike in Damascus on Iran's embassy compound. That attack killed 7 Iranian officials, mainly generals from the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Iran blamed Israel for the strike. Israel has not acknowledged its role. Since the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel that killed 1,200 Israelis, the Pentagon has sent additional warships, aircraft, and troops to the Middle East to support Israel and deter adversaries from attacking. That deterrence apparently was not heard, seen, or even considered by the Iranian officials. In the more than 6 months since the attack, Israel has waged war on Hamas in Gaza, and according to Hamas officials, 30,000 people have been killed or thereabouts. Iranian proxy forces in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen have mounted attacks on U.S. and Western interests. One attack in Jordan killed 3 U.S. soldiers and prompted a round of 85 airstrikes that largely curtailed attacks on bases with American personnel. The attack over the weekend represents the largest attack and first direct assault on Iran by Iran on Israel. U.S. officials have urged restraint to avoid further escalation. Whether that happens remains to be seen. There are people discussing the Biden response to this attack. In fact, excuse me just a moment here. In fact, what has been talked about is reported by Fox News. American and Israeli experts issued a scathing indictment of President Biden's alleged timid Iran policy after Tehran launched a massive aerial warfare attack on the Jewish state over the weekend. The Islamic Republic, for the first time, executed direct missile and drone strikes into Israeli territory. The dramatic events in the heart of the Middle East have triggered calls for the Biden administration to reverse its reportedly dovish outreach to the Ayatollahs who run the theocratic state. Biden is now urging Israel to recoil from a counterstrike. Quote, "This was a massive, unprecedented, and unacceptable strategic attack on Israel." This, according to Richard Goldberg, who was a member of former President Trump's National Security Council, speaking to Fox News. "It would be a huge mistake to pull Israel back from a military retaliation, but it's downright insanity to keep $10 billion accessible to Tehran in the aftermath. The president needs to lock down all the money he made available to Tehran in the past months." Last month, Fox News reported that Biden defied opponents of the Iran regime and waived sanctions on Iran's cash-starved economy. Biden faced criticism after releasing as much as $10 billion into the coffers of the Islamic Republic. In January, an Iran regime-sponsored proxy terrorist attack killed 3 U.S. soldiers in Japan. The Biden administration insisted the Iran regime cannot use the funds for its growing military offensive arsenal. Critics argued that $10 billion is fungible, and the financial allocation allows Iran to revise its budget to expand its military apparatus. In my opinion, this is something that is obviously defective in the Biden policy insofar as if $10 billion is available to Iran, and Iran on international television making it abundantly clear that, quote, "we will use this money as we see fit," unquote. That means that any monies going to Iran will in some way, shape, or form fund anti-Western attacks, including attacks on Israel. You see, that money does go into the coffers, and yes, it comes with strings. However, what you do is you transfer that money, the actual value of it, you use that money for all of the things that are legal. Meanwhile, that frees up all the money you have already budgeted for those things those funds now superseded by the money available from the United States. That's what they mean by fungible. You can account any way you wish on this, but this is money being used by the Ayatollahs to further their terrorist ambitions. Goldberg, who is a senior advisor for the Foundation of Defense of Democracies, added, "If the president is looking for economic and diplomatic responses to the Iranian attack, there are 3 obvious ones available: lock down the $10 billion, enforce U.S. oil sanctions, and snap back UN sanctions. If Biden avoids these steps, it isn't an escalation. It is not escalation avoidance. It is continued appeasement." There is another report that we have on this from the Wall Street Journal discussing this issue. Let's take a look at that as we continue on the Wells Report for this Monday, April 15th. Here is the report from the Wall Street Journal.
President Joe Biden and other leaders of the G7 nations condemned Iran's attack on Israel on Sunday, saying it risked provoking an uncontrollable regional escalation. A White House official said Biden warned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that the U.S. will not take part in a counteroffensive against Iran if Israel decides to retaliate after Iran launched an overnight barrage of missiles and drones on Israeli territory. Meanwhile, Netanyahu reconvened a war cabinet meeting in Tel Aviv to discuss a response to the drone and missile attack. War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz warned that Israel would, quote, exact the price from Iran in a fashion and timing that is right for us. Iran's armed forces chief said the operation was considered successful and, quote, deemed the matter concluded. But Iran warned Israel and the U.S. that a retaliation to its overnight attack would elicit a far bigger response. The Israeli army released footage on Sunday that it said showed its fighter jets intercepting unmanned aerial vehicles and cruise missiles launched from Iran. The more than 300 missiles and drones, mostly launched from inside Iran, caused only modest damage in Israel, as most were shot down with the help of the US, the UK, and Jordan. An Air Force base in southern Israel was hit but continued to operate as normal, and a 7-year-old child was seriously hurt by shrapnel. There were no other reports of injuries or serious damage.
And so when you take a look at this, you have to start paying attention to how the actual situation that we currently find ourselves in occurred. The IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps has been perpetrating attacks through these Iranian proxy forces, the Houthi rebels, Hezbollah, and even Hamas. And Israel has been very upset about that and have done whatever they could do to work to eradicate the people doing all of the thinking and the organization and the logistic support and so on. These are generals in the IRGC. These generals made themselves a target in Damascus, and Israel took them out. That happened inside an Iranian diplomatic or their consulate grounds, which means that that is foreign territory. In other words, it's arguable that Israel did indeed attack Iran directly, although it did not go from homeland to homeland. Iran responded with this attack that was designed mostly for domestic consumption. In other words, they're talking to their own people in Iran. That attack was slow-moving. It was obvious. It was inexpensive in comparison to the weapons being used to take down these drones, but there was enough capability to cause injury and death. Fortunately, death did not happen, but an injury to a child in Israel was reported. And so what you do is you say, okay, you attacked us, so we attack you. And then Iran said, this is all we're going to do. We don't expect to do anything else. And if Israel retaliates, then we will retaliate as well. This is called being lured into a fight. This is picking a fight with Israel. And Israel is in a position where now what happens? What do they do next? If they do indeed retaliate, the world, through the G7 and the president of the United States, Joe Biden, has said, we're not going to participate. That is a mistake. Why is that a mistake? I will tell you coming up in just a couple of moments. You are watching the Wells Report. Thanks very much for doing so. I sincerely appreciate it. We've got some programming notes coming up a little bit later on. It's going to be a busy kind of soldiery couple of weeks here coming up for the Wells Report. I'm a Texas State Guard soldier, although nothing I say on this broadcast has anything to do with the Texas State Guard or the Texas Military Department or the state of Texas for that matter. I will be involved in Texas State Guard duty here for the next couple of weeks. It will not interrupt the show completely, but there will be some days that I won't be available. More details on that coming up a little bit later on. Also, speaking of history, Donald Trump is the first United States president to ever be charged in criminal court. Indeed, the so-called hush money trial is going on as we speak. We'll have more about that as we continue on this broadcast, the Wells Report for April 15th, year of our Lord 2024.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service, getting things rolling for tax day. It's April 15th. I got my taxes done. My kid got his taxes done. All of our taxes are done. And what's really weird is that we're getting a refund this year. Yay. And I hope you do too. But it is tax day. Make sure that you get your tax return all put together and indeed submitted with a postmark for today, or you are late. By the way, I want to thank a dear friend of mine all the way back from high school. Candy Simmons is a dear, dear friend of mine, and she did our taxes this year for H&R Block. By the way, that's a very good system they have. They're not paying for this. This is not an endorsement, but let me tell you something. H&R Block handled this really, really well. And if you don't have somebody to do your taxes, maybe you ought to go to H&R Block. At least, I'm not going to give you Candy's telephone number because she's busy enough. All I can say is that she really helped us out. Many people are recoiling after the direct attack on Israel from Iran. Some of those people are on the chat room. Rick Weaver says, I think it's very cool that Jordan took part in repelling that attack. I do too. Jordan was the first of the Arab states to realize that the future involved Israel and that it was time for them to begin diplomatic relations and so on. This was 20 years ago. And Jordan has been a stalwart in the Middle East. Many people say the only ally we have in the Middle East is Israel. I disagree. Jordan has done a great job. Let's see who else. Rick also brings up, you mean don't, the word don't, which was applied to Iran from President Biden when the Hamas attack of October 7th occurred and all of the Israeli response. He said to Iran, if you're thinking about taking advantage of this chaos in Israel, don't. Well, we found out earlier, it found out over the weekend, that indeed Iran notified the United States it was going to make this attack. Where was that word then? Why didn't the United States say, don't? I'll tell you why. Because don't didn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything then. It doesn't mean anything now. It had no deterrent effect on Iran. That is a huge mistake. There's another huge mistake going on. The United States, and this is according to Reuters, President Biden, President Joe Biden warned Benjamin Netanyahu the United States will not take part in a counteroffensive against Iran, an option that Netanyahu's war cabinet favors after a mass drone and missile attack on their territory directly from Iran. So the U.S. isn't going to take part. Neither is the rest of the G7 coalition. What does that mean? What it means is that Israel will take their own defense in their own hands, absent any kind of moderating effect from anybody else, specifically the United States. Had this attack been more successful, Israel and Iran would already be at war, in my opinion. Direct war, state to state. But because Iran made this low and slow and easily repelled, and Israel obviously took care of most of the business along with the U.S. coalition. Because of all of that we are not at war in the Middle East as we speak. But with the world saying, no, we're not having anything to do with this. This is between you guys. Well, it is between you guys. Israel is not going to be able to tolerate a direct nation-state attack on their territory. They can't just sit there and do nothing. And if the United States and the rest of the world pull away, Israel will handle their own business. And they're going to handle their own business in direct and dramatic fashion. What I said over the weekend on X was, all these guys, all these G7 guys, are going to be standing in the radioactive wasteland of their former nations with burnt and tattered suits saying, hey, we did the right thing. Look, this is as close to World War as we have been since the last World War. Why is it that we keep courting Iran in this? What are we doing with Iran? I was saying that the coalition should immediately attack Iran. I'm talking about everybody and leave Israel out of it, which of course would indeed make it possible for Israel to not do anything, which would be more than provocative. This is the Wells Report, back with more in a moment.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. I want to say good morning to Rylan Wood, who's joining us today. He is an amazing human being. As you know, I'm a Texas State Guard soldier, although nothing I say has anything to do with the Texas State Guard or the Texas Military Department. But recently, I became the oldest person in the Texas State Guard to ever graduate from SAR school. You know why? Because anybody my age that would take that school must be insane. Absolutely insane. And Rylan was there. and made it possible for me to survive that school. I just want to say good morning to you, man. It's good to have you here on the Wells Report. As we've been talking about earlier today, we have been noticing and we have been reporting on the attack between Iran and Israel and how that impacts the world, Israel, Iran, etc. And one of the things that I wanted to show you is very disturbing. It is disturbing because for whatever reason, there are those who are interested in importing the terrorism and the attacks from Israel, Iran, etc., into the United States of America. This happened in Chicago the other day. I want you to take a look at this and tell me what you think.
So I'm going to teach you a chant in Persian that you can use if you ever encounter those Zionist freaks, whether they be Iranian or whatever, all right? Now, I don't drink margaritas, but we all know what a margarita is. We all know what a bar is. So you're going to say, Marg Bar. Marg Bar. Marg Bar Israel. 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 Thank you. What does that mean? So it has two meanings depending on who's asking. It can mean death to or down with. So can we get a Marg Bar America? We can get a Marg Bar America. Yes, we can. Marg Bar America. Marg Bar America. Marg Bar America. Marg Bar America. Thank you.
Yeah, laughing, chanting death to America, death to Israel, or down with, depending on who you're talking to. But most people assume that death to America and death to Israel is what this gregarious, happy Chicago terrorist is teaching his fellow citizens. And they're laughing and enjoying it and so on and so on. It starts with laughter. It starts with all of that. And then all of a sudden it becomes horrifying as people start getting killed because they don't jump into it or they take those chants seriously. Meanwhile, in Chicago, when we're talking about terrorism and loss of life, there are people that have died, or there is a person who has died, and this person was a 7-year-old girl. That 7-year-old girl lost her life in a random shooting that occurred in the city of Chicago. There is a report that we are looking at here, and these are police officials that are describing the attack, what happened in Chicago the other day. Take a look at this.
On today's date, officers responded to a shot spotter or alert in the 2000 West block of 52nd Street here, just west of Damon. Shot spotter alerted to 18 rounds. Upon arriving here, they discovered multiple people shot at the block. They immediately began doing life-saving measures, which included applying tourniquets and chest seals. There was a total at this time of 8 people shot, 5 adults and 3 children. The adults vary in age from 19 to 40 years old. The children, there's one 1-year-old male Hispanic who was shot multiple times. He's in critical condition. There's a 7-year-old male Hispanic, also shot multiple times, in critical condition. And there's a 7-year-old female Hispanic who was shot in the head, and she has succumbed to her injuries. She's now pronounced dead.
Horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. Not happening in Israel, not happening in the Gaza Strip, happening in Chicago. And it happens every weekend. One of the most popular searches on Google is indeed Chicago shootings. Here's how USA Today reports it. A 7-year-old girl was killed, several others injured, including 2 children, following a gang-related shooting in Chicago Saturday night over the weekend. Police in a news conference said officers responded to the alert for 18 gunshot rounds at approximately 9:15 p.m. in the back of the Yards neighborhood and found multiple people shot and immediately began their life-saving measures, as you just heard. Officials initially said 8 people were shot, but as of yesterday morning, local outlets reported 11 people have been shot, including at least 3 children. The Chicago Police Department did not immediately respond to a USA Today request for comment. Chicago Police Department Deputy Chief Don Jerome said the 7-year-old died after being shot in the head. A 1-year-old boy, 7-year-old boy, both in critical condition after being shot multiple times. The adult victims were aged 19 to age 40. An investigation is preliminary, but police said those shot were standing outside a family gathering when someone shot into the crowd. Police believe it was a targeted attack, and witnesses saw 2 gunmen running away after the shooting. This was not a random act of violence. It was likely gang-related, said Jerome. Regardless of the motivation for this incident, 3 innocent children were struck tonight. One of them tragically succumbed to her wounds. The offender's actions, make no mistake, are horrific and unacceptable in our city. It's easy to say that. It's easy to say that it's unacceptable, but constant gunfire, constant shootings, constant death, maiming, injuries, etc., is part and parcel of life in Chicago. That happens all the time there. As I said, one of the most popular Google searches is shootings in Chicago this weekend, and it's happened yet again. In the meantime, the citizenry are looking the other way. They are continuing to vote for the people that have policies that make this okay. For some reason, the people in Chicago, the people running that city, believe that really the problem is the law. The problem is not police. The problem is not the shooting of citizens. It's the fact that the laws or the economic conditions, etc., are pushing these people into these acts. Gang violence is organized crime. Organized crime is part and parcel of life in Chicago and always has been. This, on the other hand, is where citizens, normally gangs just shoot each other. And normally police officers sort of look at that and saying, well, that's one less gang member. But these people are killing people. These people are killing citizens. And what is Chicago police doing about it? Well, what they're doing is they are essentially cleaning up the mess. And that's what's happening here. I'm not besmirching the Chicago police. Make no mistake about that. I'm not saying that they are responsible for the carnage that we keep seeing coming out of Chicago. The people that are responsible for the carnage are the people that make it impossible for people to defend themselves, and not taking care of the people who are responsible for these attacks. Some of that is in the community. These gangs are notoriously tight-lipped about the gang violence between them. And so what happens is that there are people that are brought up, okay, who did the shooting? I don't know. It happened so fast. I don't know. Why? It's because that if they do speak, they'll be killed. That's why. That is the way this law of silence, this silence perpetuates this kind of thing. You can see the reason why. If I talk to the police, I'm going to get killed. If I talk to the police, not just I will get killed, but my family will be killed as well. That's how cartels took over Mexico, Colombia, Bolivia, a lot of those countries that are now sending people trying to escape the violence into our country. That's how all this happens. Because the citizenry is afraid to speak for fear of being targeted themselves. And that's how things get out of control, badly, quickly, etc. And they're being aided and abetted by the people whose responsibility it is to run the city of Chicago and other cities in the United States suffering the same problems. This is their policy making. This is their refusal to go and put themselves in a position where they take these people off the street because the law is unfair. The law is racial. The law is this. The law is that. Well, unfortunately, that is defective thinking. That defective thinking is getting more people killed. And it's absolutely inexcusable. It's absolutely inexcusable. And by the way, I want to make this abundantly clear. Chicago is not the only place it's happening. It's also happening in New York. In Syracuse over the weekend, there were shootings of cops. 2 cops killed during a traffic stop. Look at this.
The Syracuse police chief called the fallen officer and sheriff's deputy heroes after they were fatally shot in an exchange of gunfire with the suspect, who was also killed. Authorities say the incident started off as an attempted traffic stop. Two Syracuse police officers were trying to pull over a suspicious vehicle around 7 p.m. Sunday, but the driver took off. Officers tracked the car by license plate to a home on Darien Drive in Liverpool and asked for backup from the Onondaga County Sheriff's Office after learning the suspect might be armed. Officers found the car at the home and saw what appeared to be guns inside.
They heard what sounded like someone manipulating a firearm from inside the residence. Moments later, there was an exchange of gunfire between at least one suspect and the officers and the deputies. As a result of the exchange of gunfire, one SPD officer and one Onondaga County Sheriff's deputy were struck by gunfire, as well as the suspect.
The police chief says the Syracuse police officer who died had about 3 years on the job. The sheriff called his fallen deputy a seasoned law enforcement officer who was very well liked in his community. Authorities say the scene is still active this morning as they wait to search the suspect's house.
This from CBS News 2 in New York. And so we see all of these random acts of violence, some not so random. And it's because we refuse in various liberal enclaves around America to actually enforce the law, to actually make it impossible for these people to do their evil work. They have been empowered by the people running the cities, saying that they are put upon, that they're being unfairly treated. They do it by withholding support from the police, making the police bigger targets than they normally are. And these criminals are taking these assurances of non-prosecution and indeed a grievance, and they're acting on it. And they are killing citizens, and they are killing police officers. This is a republic. This is a free country. And people are free to vote for the people who should lead them. That's how the system works. But it's not working. It's not working so much in these liberal enclaves because the people being elected refuse to recognize the fact that their policies are getting people killed. In their effort to try to be fair to criminals, they are empowering criminals to commit more crime. That's not the way it works. In New York City, Rudy Giuliani did a couple of different things. One, he started enforcing what he called the spit on the sidewalk situation, the spit on the sidewalk enforcement. You spit on the sidewalk in New York, you can get arrested for it. And the broken windows policy is very much like that. Small crimes being dealt with harshly to stop crime of other kinds from occurring. Most of these small crimes are perpetrated by young people that are first finding their way and stepping into the gang life that awaits them. And then as these crimes continue and as these people get older, they are more and more emboldened by the fact that they are not being prosecuted out of reasons of either race or, quote, fairness, unquote. And so things get out of hand, and pretty soon you're starting to kill people. And then when you add no support for police in these areas, what you end up with is carnage. And that's what we're seeing in two spots: killing cops, killing citizens, killing children. And it happens, at least in Chicago, every single weekend. And probably in many of these other liberal enclaves. As I said, these things have far-reaching effects. Mexico can be considered and is considered by many people a failed state insofar as the cartels run that country. Same story for all the Central American people that are flooding our border now on the invitation of the Biden administration. They're trying to escape all that. And what's happening is that they are escaping a situation that is horrifying and terrible and deadly coming to the United States that is trying to grow a horrifying and dangerous and deadly society for them to land in. Now, I don't know what the wisdom is on this. I don't have any idea why liberal prosecutors in these liberal cities seem to find more problems with the law than the people who break them. I don't know why people continue to vote for these people. I don't have any idea. All I can say is that sooner or later, people have got to say, you know what, this isn't working. I wonder how long that's going to take. I wonder how long that's going to take. The answer isn't go out and elect the next Republican that happens to show up on your ballot. That's not the answer. The answer is the citizenry has to act. And they have to act with their votes to stop this.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We're discussing the violence around the country, egged on by liberal city leaders and prosecutors in those cities and counties. We're also talking a little bit about how the prosecutors refuse to get these people off the street. Mug came up with this. The U.S. city with the single highest population-adjusted rate of violent crime is Anniston, Alabama. That is a community of about 22,000 in the northeastern part of the state. Another Alabama community, Bessemer, is number 2, and 3 others in the state are among the top 25. There are 2 problems with this. First of all, if you're in a city of 22,000, it only takes 2 or 3 murders in a year to make that happen. That's thing number 1. So your statistics may be in a vacuum completely true. But you have to understand a couple of other things here that means nothing to the circumstance that I'm currently reporting. So I replied, so the killings in Chicago and New York are no big deal, huh? So they're no big deal, right? Well, Bessemer and Anniston, hey, that's the deadliest place in America. Well, that is a leftist talking point that uses statistics. Mark Twain. There are lies, there are damn lies, and then there are statistics. When you start talking about a smaller group of people, millions of people live in Chicago. When you start talking about a small group of people, it doesn't take a whole lot of crime in order to look very bad in statistics. There are not shootings and killings, not gang-related crime every weekend in Anniston, Alabama, or Bessemer, or any of those other small towns. There is not constant refusal to enforce law. There is not constant allowance of people who have been arrested to be just let out for whatever reason to go back into the population and continue their crime spree. That doesn't happen in those cities. It does happen in New York and Chicago and LA and San Francisco and all of the top cities in America. The top 25 cities in the United States currently run by leftist/liberal leadership, attacking their police officers, making them targets. That also doesn't happen in Anniston, Alabama. So once again, you got to look at this for what it is. And you also got to stop depending on statistics. I mean, if you got a town of 5 people and one person kills another person, my goodness gracious, you may be one of the most dangerous communities in the entire world. Statistically. Stop it, Mug. You got to be smarter than that. You are. You absolutely are. Just, stop it. Sitting in a large auditorium in the nation's capital, Moms for Liberty co-founder Tiffany Justice traded the spotlight of school board meetings in a tiny Florida county to take center stage before upper crust conservatives in Washington, D.C., this being reported by USA Today. Tiffany Justice, turned to make direct eye contact with those in the crowd and delivered a stern warning. The Department of Justice is coming after parents the same way it had and has former President Donald Trump. Justice went on to describe her calling her teenage daughter when she first found out the Southern Poverty Law Center labeled Moms for Liberty extremist and anti-government after meeting with members of the Biden administration at the Weaponization of U.S. Government Symposium that happened on Tuesday of last week. It was put on by the right-wing think tank, the Heritage Foundation, USA Today showing political bias by saying it's a right-wing think tank. She Googles it and she says, "Hey, Mom, you're right next to the KKK." The crowd erupted into laughter. Justice scoffed, "It's ridiculous." Justice's appearance at the Heritage Foundation event seemed to mark a shift in focus for Moms for Liberty after its endorsed candidates won fewer than 1/3 of their school board elections last year. Instead of rallying around a fresh set of seats up and down the ballot, Justice sounded off on talking points the crowd usually hears from the Republican Party's presumptive nominee, Donald Trump. Okay, well, once again, this is biased reporting on the part of USA Today. The circumstance is this: the Justice Department enforces law unfairly. The FBI has looked into what happens at school board meetings, calling these people domestic terrorists. That is not the case. That is not the case. All you have to do is look at the law enforcement effort of the BLM riots of the summer of 2020 and the law enforcement activity of the January 6th riot. You look at those two things, and the disparity is shocking. It's shocking. Tiffany Justice makes an important point. Donald Trump has said it. They're coming after you. I'm just in the way. And many people who say, look, if they can do it with Donald Trump, they can certainly do it with anybody else. And that is exactly what the deep state, is doing. That's what's happening. It's happening right in front of our faces. Now, people say, my God, look at that right-wing guy go. He's a Trump supporter. He's this, he's that. No. I'm an American. I'm an American, and I'm seeing the distortion of our law and the distortion of our law enforcement used as a political wedge. Well, that works both ways. That works both ways, and USA Today's complaining about it. My goodness gracious, they haven't gotten anybody elected, this, that, and so on and so on. They got some people elected. USA Today needs to ask itself, how many people did you get elected with your coverage of the news? That's what USA Today needs to ask itself. Is it more or less successful getting people elected, USA Today, I mean, than Moms for Liberty? Because they sure as hell are doing their absolute dead level best to maintain the status quo ante with regards to this level of government that we currently experience in the United States. Look, that's just the way I see it. If you see it differently, like Mug does, give me a call. Telephone number 817-379-2172. That's hour number 1 of the Wells Report in the books. Stick around. We've got hour number 2 coming up right after this.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning for the Wells Report, and make sure you share us with all your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon, and don't forget to check out our Substack column, which will be coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. When you do all this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us those thumbs up. They are really important. Check the notification box so you know when we're on the air, and whatever you do, join us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
South, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion, both yours and mine. And so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Thanks for joining us. Today is April 15th. It's tax day. Get your taxes done. We did. It was amazing. We went to a dear friend of mine, Candy Simmons, who lives in Arkansas, and she did our taxes via H&R Block. This is not an endorsement of H&R Block. All I can tell you is both Candy and that company did a great job on our taxes. I hope you have similar results with yours. We're actually getting a refund this year. It's amazing. It's fantastic. As I said at the outset of last hour, this is an historic run of days for not just the United States, but the world. We talked about the world insofar as we covered the Israeli attack or the Iranian attack on Israel in a state-to-state fashion last hour. If you missed it, check it out. Pretty good reporting. But there is other history that is happening. USA Today talks about it this way. Barring a last-minute turn of events, a former American president will go on criminal trial for the first time in the nation's history. BBC has a superb report on that. Let me bring that to you now as we start this particular hour of the Wells Report. Check this out on this trial that has no precedent.
For the first time in U.S. history, a president will face a criminal trial. And on Monday, the first of 4 criminal trials against Donald Trump gets underway in New York. Now, Monday's trial will examine 34 counts of fraud related to hush money payments that Donald Trump paid to an adult film star before the 2016 presidential election. Prosecutors say that he arranged payments to Stormy Daniels in an effort to buy her silence in the run-up to the presidential election, and alleged that he falsified business records in violation of campaign finance laws. Well, first, jury selection will take place. It could take days, perhaps even weeks. 12 chosen individuals will then consider what could be the only criminal case that Mr. Trump encounters before the 2024 U.S. presidential election in November. Now, Donald Trump, who is the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, has pleaded not guilty in the case. And he argues that the allegations that he faces are not criminal. And unlike previous civil cases that he's encountered, Mr. Trump's expected to attend almost every day of the court proceedings. And that could disrupt his presidential campaign for the duration of the 6 to 8 week trial. Speaking alongside U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson on Friday, the former U.S. president says that he is ready to testify on the stand.
I'm testifying. I tell the truth. I mean, all I can do is tell the truth. And the truth is that there's no case. They have no case. And again, you have to read the scholars, read all of the legal scholars. I haven't seen one legal scholar that said this is the case. And in fact, even you people said, oh, gee, that's too bad. This is the first one. All of them are scams. They're all about election interference.
It could be a tense trial. Mr. Trump has expressed his hatred for Manhattan Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan, who is overseeing the trial. And that resulted in a gag order against Donald Trump in late March, barring him from making public statements about court staff, jurors, witnesses, and lawyers in the district attorney's office, or even their families. But on Saturday, Donald Trump attacked his former attorney, Michael Cohen. Mr. Cohen is expected to be the prosecution's star witness.
That may be the case. But the situation on that is that Michael Cohen has real serious credibility problems. There's a piece of video that you should go search where there's a back-to-back comparison of things that Michael Cohen said in public and things that he's saying in these trials. And it is something that is going to be a real problem for the prosecution. More about that coming up a little bit later on. So let's continue with our look at the news as USA Today sees it. Donald Trump is fighting 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to cover up a hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels in the run-up to the 2016 presidential election. If convicted, the charges could land the presumptive Republican presidential nominee in prison. Many legal experts say a realistic sentence ranges from just probation to as much as 4 years behind bars. But keep in mind, there are 34 counts. It's a case that is sure to divide the country, says USA Today. Republican voters delivered electoral victories for Trump in nearly every Republican primary this year. He only lost one, despite knowing that Trump faces 4 criminal cases, including these New York charges. Trump has portrayed both Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg and trial judge Juan Merchan as biased against him. By the way, do you agree? Do you agree that there is bias in this courtroom? Many people do. Many people do not. Let me know what you think. 817-379-2172. There are some people who are going to see this as a political trial. Another one in New York where Trump is certainly not well liked. This is according to Hank Scheinkopf, a New York City-based political consultant who worked for former President Bill Clinton, telling USA Today. There are others who will see this as a way to deal with an illegality that should not have occurred. We're talking about paying off a porn star. Jury selection is set to start today. I suspect that the opening statements are currently being heard, and then they'll get on to jury selection. This is just over a year after DA Bragg announced the indictment against Donald Trump April 4th, 2023. The trial is expected to last between 6 and 8 weeks, according to a media advisory from the court. Indeed, Donald Trump not only is there at the trial, but is also expecting to testify. 12 jurors will be asked to decide whether the real estate mogul falsified business records at the Trump Organization in order to conceal or commit another crime, a purpose that turns the acts into felonies under New York law. Prosecutors allege that Trump reimbursed his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, for the $130,000 hush money payment through a series of checks, falsely labeling them as payments for legal services. That concealed a federal election law violation because the $130,000 payment was meant for was meant to help Trump's 2016 election and exceeded the campaign contribution limits, according to the prosecution. They also say the records were meant to conceal plans to violate state tax and election laws. President Trump pled not guilty to the charges, recently submitted a frenzy of legal filings trying to delay the trial, so far to no avail. There are very serious problems with this case. It is an arcane twisting of the law to create a specific set of enforcement opportunities for DA Alvin Bragg against Donald Trump specifically. But it does bring up the possibility of a legal precedent moving forward, which not only makes the New York law, the law enforcement and law and justice system look ridiculous, but it also runs afoul of a whole lot of things, including Donald Trump's constitutional law. So the way this works, according to most legal scholars that I have researched, they say it this way. First of all, this payment was given to Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen being the lawyer for President Trump at the time. Michael Cohen made the payments. It was a legal expense. Most legal theorists say, what are these people doing? And I have to count myself as among those. I don't understand how this even got this far. But how could it work? Well, in the last election, President Trump was able to garner 12% of the vote in the borough of Manhattan. This, by the way, is basically a local DA trying to take down a president for things that are peculiar to the borough of Manhattan. This was something that clearly the framers of the United States did not want to see happen. Therefore, they did extend a different way to enforce law, even criminal law, against a sitting president or even a former president of the United States. The sitting president is dealing with impeachment. Impeachment is the way you remove a president who has broken the law. The other aspect of this is that following a president's term, there is presidential immunity. This has been distorted by politicians, left and right, because of their willingness to try to remove Donald Trump from the political scene. That's just my opinion. And once again, what I'm saying here on this camera, that's opinion. So if you disagree, by all means, call me on the telephone and tell me why I'm wrong. 817-379-172-271. Okay. 817-379. Let me read this thing right here. It's right there. 379-2172. Call me and tell me what you think. I need to hear what you believe on this trial. Is it political? Is it justifiable? Is it attempt to interfere with a presidential election? Or is it a just rendering of law against a bad guy? 817-379-2172. So all I'm trying to figure out is how can this work? Well, like I said, the borough of Manhattan is overwhelmingly Democrat. In this particular case, we have honest records saying who is biased against President Trump and who isn't based on the 2020 election. I don't believe that there is any way for this president to get a fair trial. Further, Judge Juan Marchand is a guy who has ruled against Trump before and undoubtedly will do whatever is necessary to put his bias into the court record. Sure, this does set up an appeal, and I'm reasonably sure that all of this is to simply get a conviction against Donald Trump before the election and have people decide what that means to them. Now, you have to contrast that idea with the fact that Hunter Biden's laptop, for example, was a story that was suppressed by both the deep state, the Justice Department, the FBI, and the mainstream media. But that's not what's happening with Donald Trump. This is something that has gone full bore and indeed is an attempt to get a conviction against the president so that they can say this is a convicted felon. Well, these are only felonies because they have been contorted by DA Alvin Bragg into felonies using laws to reactivate a complaint that is long past the statute of limitations. Statute of limitations strikes to due process. Due process is one of the things that insulates us, we the people of the United States, against overzealous, abusive prosecution. It's in the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights. All of this thumbs its nose, all of these proceedings thumb their nose at the fact that, first of all, you're using laws that haven't been used for over 150 years. You are contorting laws that are on the books. They are vagaries, and you're putting it in a jurisdiction where there is a demonstrable anti-Trump bias. So yeah, the appeals court is going to look at this and say, I think we look stupid enough, we're going to set this aside. But in the meantime, there will be this so-called felony conviction hanging over the president pending an appeal. Now, there are people who said that when the actual facts of the Hunter Biden laptop came out, finally, that it would have affected their vote for President Biden. Is that going to be the case here? Like I said, the people who support Donald Trump don't care about any of this. They believe it's political. Do you? Do you believe it's political, or do you believe that it is a just defense of New York law? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. The former president commented on this. We'll have a little bit about that as we continue on this broadcast, and we certainly hope that you stick around for it. As we talk a little bit about this historic trial unfolding today in New York, is the president guilty of this malfeasance as alleged? Or is he being railroaded for the sake of interference in the 2024 election? 817-379-2172. We'll take your calls. Agree, disagree. That's not the important part. Hearing your voice is.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. Good morning. My name is John David Wells. President Trump is on trial in New York City, specifically the borough of Manhattan. NBC News covered the story. Let's bring you that report with Vaughn Hilliard, who actually reports on comments made in Schnecksville, Pennsylvania, as the president prepared for the trial.
It is in Allentown, Pennsylvania, where the former president held that rally last night. Vaughn, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Willie. Former President Trump here in Battleground, Pennsylvania, rallying supporters last night before the start of jury selection in his criminal trial in Manhattan Monday morning. This is the first ever criminal trial for a former president over the alleged hush money scheme to cover up payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election. Now, NBC News has learned some 6,000 New Yorkers have been summoned to appear before the Manhattan criminal courts next week as potential jurors. They will be asked more than 60 questions, including what news sources they read and watch and whether they've attended a Trump rally or follow him on social media. The questions, notably per the judge's instructions, do not specifically include whether potential jurors have ever voted for or against Trump in the past. Now, as the defendant, Mr. Trump is required to be inside the courtroom for the trial, which could last up to 6 weeks. There is a list of witnesses expected to be called to testify by prosecutors, including Trump's former aide, Hope Hicks, Stormy Daniels herself, and Trump's one-time personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, who has already served time for his role in the alleged scheme. The former president landing in New York City today, suggesting he's willing to take the stand for his own criminal defense. Willie?
And it all gets started tomorrow morning here in New York City. Vaughn Hilliard in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Vaughn, thanks so much.
All right.
thanks for
So,
watching.
and
Don't
there
miss
you
the-
have what NBC News sees as the take on this. Once again, Hope Hicks, Stormy Daniels, Michael Cohen. Those are the people that this case hangs on. The question is, do any of them have any credibility? Don't know so much about Hope Hicks. Don't know what happened between Hope Hicks and President Trump. But I do know that Michael Cohen has been playing both sides against the middle on this, and his credibility is shattered. Stormy Daniels, for her part, accepted the money, signed a non-disclosure agreement. And I was talking about the precedents set in this. First of all, this is a private business deal between a presidential candidate and someone who would disrupt that campaign. It's been done before, specifically during the Clinton administration. It's been done before, but I guess it's okay to excuse a president if he's Democrat and not okay to excuse a president if he's Trump. And once again, this puts out legal precedents. First, after New York State deciding that it has the right to value property, and indeed will prosecute those people who value the property differently than they do, effectively killing the New York real estate market anywhere in the state. Nobody's going to invest money in New York. They can't. They can't. Because it's required that New York State actually assign values to any particular building, and if you disagree, they will prosecute you. That's the first problem with this. The second problem with this is that now New York, specifically the city of New York in the borough of Manhattan, now they have to sign off on whatever private business deal can be made between anybody to anybody, depending on whether or not they paid their lawyer first and then the lawyer paid, and somehow that wasn't documented in official records, which is not required. Lots of problems with this case. I don't know where it's going to go, except, of course, that there is a DA who is acting politically. There is a judge who is apparently acting politically. And it is in a political environment, specifically the borough of New York, that is decidedly anti-Trump. So how is this going to be equal representation under the law? Fair and speedy trials. How is this? How is this going to happen? Do you believe that this puts out something that may turn its eye on you someday? I mean, do you believe that might happen? I sure do. I'm really worried about where this law is coming from, because now, instead of being a nation of laws, we seem to be a nation of political interpretation of laws. That is a slippery slope that leads to an abyss, and there is likely no escape. Do you agree? Disagree? Call me, 817-379-2172.
Nobody wants wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I'm John David Wells. An historic day in the United States. A former president being charged in a criminal court in the city of New York, the borough of Manhattan. New York Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan is no stranger to Donald Trump. Merchan is presiding over the first criminal trial in history of a former president. This from USA Today. There are all kinds of things about this trial that make people scratch their heads, both outside and inside America's legal process. Several of his rulings have gone against President Trump, including gag orders that are subject to constitutional review, and also rejections of delays in the trial. Trump contends Merchan hates him and has asked to remove the judge from the trial. But Merchan is still in place. Jury selection is beginning today for Trump's trial on 34 counts of allegedly falsifying business records. President Trump has pled not guilty. Here's what USA Today knows about the judge. Merchan has already fined the Trump Organization $1.6 million. This in a 2022 tax fraud trial of two parts of the Trump Organization, in which the company's former chief financial officer, Allen Weisselberg, was convicted for not reporting $1.7 million in benefits he received from that organization. He was found guilty and indeed sentenced to jail. The judge said that after listening to Weisselberg's testimony, he regretted agreeing to a 5-month jail term. If not for that, he would, quote, be imposing a sentence much greater than that. Weisselberg was sentenced by another judge last Wednesday to another 5 months in jail after pleading guilty last month to perjury for lying during the Trump civil fraud trial. New York Attorney General Letitia James won a $454 million judgment against Trump for inflating his assets in loan applications. That, by the way, was moved to $175 million, not reported in this story by USA Today. After Trump was indicted in March 2023, Merchan was assigned to the case. The former president blasted the judge on social media. The judge assigned to my witch hunt case, a case that has never been charged before, hates me. This was a text on Truth Social. Trump has repeatedly attacked Lauren Merchan, the judge's daughter, in the run-up to the trial. He called her, in one social media post, a rabid Trump hater who has admitted to having conversations with her father about me. There, by the way, also there are reports that there has been political fundraising on the part of Merchan's daughter over this very case. Some $800,000 talked about in news reports. But Judge Merchan says his daughter didn't work to provide or didn't provide a justifiable reason for his recusal, which Trump had requested. The New York State Advisory Committee on Judicial Ethics found the case did not involve Lauren Merchan or her business, either directly or indirectly, according to USA Today. Merchan imposed a gag order March 26th against Trump, commenting on witnesses, court staff, or prosecutors after repeated criticism of the judge's daughter. Merchan expanded the order April 9th to prohibit comments about relatives of him or Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg if the statements are intended to interfere with the case. To argue the most recent attacks, which include photographs, were necessary and appropriate to the current environment is farcical, said Judge Merchan. Merchan also refused to delay the trial while Trump appeals the gag order and while Trump awaits a decision from the United States Supreme Court about whether he is immune from charges in a separate case as a former president, noting that Trump waited until long after he was charged to file that request. This court finds the defendants had myriad opportunities to raise the claim of presidential immunity well before March 7th, 2024, said Merchan. Merchan has been a felony judge for 15 years. Then New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg appointed Merchan as a family court judge in 2006. Chief Administrative Judge Lawrence Marks named him to the Supreme Court, handling felonies in 2009. Before that, Merchan served as an assistant attorney general for Nassau County on suburban Long Island and in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office for 5 years. USA Today has also come up with another article regarding DA Alvin Bragg. Federal prosecutors, former Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr., considered charging Donald Trump for covering up hush money payments or alleged cover up of hush money payments, and both declined. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg was undeterred. Last year, he became the first prosecutor to secure a criminal indictment against a former president, and on Monday, the world's attention will turn to Bragg as Trump's trial on 34 counts of falsifying business records begins. That's today. The core is not money for sex, said Bragg in a recent radio interview. We would say that it's about conspiring to corrupt a presidential election, then lying in New York business records to cover it up. Trump has responded to the personal invective, calling Bragg a thug and a, quote, degenerate psychopath who hates the USA, unquote. A review of Bragg's past work, however, shows a career with state and federal law enforcement and an interest in civil rights. His background: after growing up in Harlem, Bragg earned his undergraduate and law degrees from Harvard University and became an assistant state attorney general and an assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. Between government jobs, he taught law and was co-director of the Racial Justice Project at New York Law School. Bragg also represented the mother and sister of Eric Garner, seeking information about his death during an arrest by New York City police in 2014. When he took office, January 1st, 2022, he became Manhattan's first black district attorney. In 2022, Bragg's office won convictions against two parts of the Trump Organization and its chief financial officer. Alan Weisselberg was sentenced to 5 months in prison after pleading guilty to 15 charges in a scheme to avoid taxes. Two Trump corporations were fined a combined $1.6 million for conviction of 17 felonies. Bragg said company officials have to play by the rules, and that Weisselberg used his position to get lavish perks such as a rent-free Manhattan apartment, multiple Mercedes-Benz cars, and private school tuition for his grandchildren, quote, all without paying the required taxes. New York Attorney General Letitia James won a massive civil judgment this year against Trump for fraudulently inflating his assets on loan applications. Based on Weisselberg's testimony in James's civil trial against Trump, Bragg just won a perjury conviction against Weisselberg, who was sentenced Wednesday to another 5 months in jail. Before Alvin Bragg became a district attorney, Trump pardoned political strategist Steve Bannon for federal charges related to the not-for-profit We Build the Wall Incorporated, which was charged with alleged money laundering and conspiracy in a scheme that raised millions of dollars. But Bragg and James announced a 6-count indictment against Bannon and the group. The New York trial is scheduled this May. Bragg has said that he sued Trump more than 100 times when he worked in the state attorney general's office, including successfully targeting the Trump Foundation for misuse of charitable funds for personal and political purposes. Other prosecutors declined to file the hush money charges against President Trump. Cyrus Vance, Bragg's predecessor as Manhattan District Attorney, initiated the case over payments in the run-up of the 2016 election, buying the silence of women who said they had affairs with Trump, which Bragg completed. But Vance did not file the charges in the hush money investigation before leaving office in 2022. Make that 2021. Trump has argued on social media there was no crime, and Vance looked at it and took a pass. Justice Department investigators ended their investigations into the hush money payments in July of 2019. This after convicting Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen. Cohen pled guilty to a campaign finance violation because the payments he arranged to silence the women in the weeks before the 2016 election could have affected the results. But Trump was not charged. Bragg unveiled the charges against President Trump in March of 2023 by saying Manhattan is the country's most significant business market and fraud will not be tolerated. Bragg alleged that Trump repeatedly and fraudulently falsified New York business records to conceal crimes that hid damaging information from the voting public during the 2016 presidential election. We cannot allow New York businesses to manipulate their records to cover up criminal conduct. Judge Juan Merchan issued a gag order to block Trump, as we just reported, for commenting on Bragg or the judge if the messages are intended to influence the trial. That is the state of play as we talk about the personalities involved. What I see in all of this is I see a DA that has, both in his capacity as an assistant U.S. attorney and in other capacities, has his targets set on Donald Trump and his organization. Is this selective prosecution? Well, that remains to be seen. And once again, as I brought up a moment ago, this is about trying to come up with a felony conviction against President Trump during the 2024 presidential campaign. This, coupled with gag orders, makes this, in my opinion, extremely political and indeed interference in the 2024 election. There is a reason why presidents are given immunity by the United States Constitution. There is a reason why all of these things have never been done before, because you cannot make the president a subject of prosecutions for any manner of things, having this president then look over his shoulder to wonder with every decision that he makes what the legal implications are, both during his presidency and afterwards. You can't have a local DA charging the president for a crime. My only concern on this is, okay, so let's assume all this works. How long will it be before, say, for example, the district attorney of the city of Miami starts filing charges against President Biden? And then what else happens? What else happens? Suddenly we have all these jurisdictions that have a part of the political, of the federal political judicial system in an effort to try to hinder the political opposition. And all these people that are, say, for example, leftists or Trump haters or what have you, all these people are celebrating all of this as if it's a good thing. What we have seen in these United States being a self-correcting mechanism is what ends up happening is that, okay, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Sooner or later, an opposition Justice Department, an opposition political FBI, an opposition DA or what have you will set their sights on candidates of the other side. Those people that are saying that this is just desserts for the evil Donald Trump, well, okay, what about the supposedly evil Joe Biden? What about the supposedly evil Bob Melendez? What about all these other prosecutions? Just exactly what are we going to do here? But getting back to the President of the United States, the reason that we have an executive branch in our government is to quickly make decisions of national import. To not have the President of the United States as a subject of a legislative branch of government, like a parliamentary system. The parliament, essentially, any parliament, whether it's British or French or whatever, elects their head of state. And wait a minute, it may not be that way in the French. I'll have to look that up. But certainly in Britain, that means that the titular head of state is a plaything of the legislature. And you can just go back in the recent past to see how the legislature would say, you know what? We don't like this particular prime minister and we vote him out of office. Well, okay. Then how is that particular prime minister supposed to make executive decisions? The answer to that question is they do not. So in other words, the legislative branch of the government, if indeed the Supreme Court finds that this immunity doesn't exist, will somehow dictate all the trappings of the office of President of the United States and completely change the three-part government that we currently have: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. Supposedly the weakest part of those particular branches. Well, if all of this goes through, then the balance of power that has indeed sustained this nation since this is the first kind of trial for a sitting or former president will be changed for at least the time it takes for people with cooler heads to say, nah, you know what, this isn't what the Constitution said. And of course, that throws it right back into the Supreme Court of the United States. The judicial branch of our nation, all the courts, are not empowered to affect American elections. They are typically extremely concerned about getting involved and do almost anything they can to avoid involvement in those kinds of trials. And so here we are. Here we are in a situation where, gosh, we have what is a gigantic mess that will, and there's always good news in everything, it will define the limits of presidential immunity, if any. But those decisions have long, far-reaching implications. Say, for example, the withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan. Do you believe that President Biden should go to jail for that? What about the Benghazi mess? Do you believe that Hillary Clinton ought to go to jail for that? Since she was a part of the Obama administration, should President Obama face charges? These are things on the table. Do we really want them to be? Back with more in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. Thank you so much for watching this broadcast. If you find value in it, please do share it with your friends. Subscribe to it. Ask your friends to subscribe. Hit the notification button. Give us those thumbs ups. Those mean a lot to us. And if you'd like to support the show financially, you can do so by going to patreon.com/The Wells Report. You can sign up for a subscription to the broadcast, $1 or $2 a month. Really helps us out. And we'd really appreciate it if you do that as well. This is the Wells Report. I was talking a little bit about parliamentary systems, and I added France to that. That was incorrect. We fix mistakes on this broadcast. The political system of France consists, very much like the United States, of an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch. Executive power is exercised by the President of the Republic and the government. By the way, parliamentary systems that essentially are in the circumstance of electing their titular head of state include Canada, as I said, Great Britain, Italy, Japan, Latvia, the Netherlands, New Zealand, etc. Let's see, there is on Google here, there is a former list or a list of former parliaments. Let's see, and this is incomprehensible, so I'll leave you alone. But the thing about it is I wanted to clarify that to make sure that you understood that France does have a government very much like ours with different results. The other aspect of having a parliament dictating who the titular head of state is that if indeed that particular prime minister appeases or satisfies the needs of the prevailing government in power, then he stays in power. If he does something else, he can be removed. Again, this by legislation, a legislative vote. Imagine what the United States would look like if whenever a president did something that the House of Representatives didn't like, they voted him out of office. They've tried. They've done the impeachment process on Donald Trump twice. Other impeachments include President Clinton, the first time in ages. Andrew Johnson was impeached. All of these people, all of this process is political chaos. It is politically chaotic, and it is based on politics. Remember what happens when politicians get involved. When politicians get involved, they have a completely different idea of how a government is supposed to work because they don't base it on law, as we've seen. They base it on political whim or fancy. And then they use the trappings of law to try to justify their particular course of action. For example, the impeachment of President Donald Trump. It is a political process, and it is open to interpretation of politicians, as opposed to a legal system that is based on equal protection under the law. Even that's been distorted in these United States. Is that something you and I want to see more of, or do we want to see less of those things? I would dare say less. And we'll find out exactly how this works. So you know that I'm a baseball coach. I'm a baseball umpire. I love baseball. I've been a baseball player, or was a baseball player, until I turned 47 years old and hung up the cleats after I became a part of a men's 18 and over amateur team. Had a wonderful time playing baseball, and then started coaching, and indeed fell in love with baseball all over again. Because baseball is fun. It's fun to watch kids play baseball, especially when they pull off something truly amazing. There are all kinds of ways to win a baseball game. You can win it with your arm. You can win it with your legs. You can win it with a bat. You can win it with a glove. And you can win it with your head. A New Jersey high school baseball team has a video that is viral because of how it was able to pick up a victory on the diamond. The Delsea Regional High School was in a tight matchup against Audubon High School. This happened Saturday. In the seventh and final inning, Audubon had runners on first and second base with 2 outs and down 1 run. And then this happened. This was beautiful. Keep your eyes on the ball. Like we say in baseball, keep your eyes on the ball. Check this out. It was amazing.
Starr checks on the runner, throw to second, a fake throw, or no, a real throw, went into center field. A hidden ball trick. We were all fooled, and the game is over. Oh my goodness. What a way to end it for Delsea, a comeback victory. And pulling a rabbit out of a hat to win the game for Delsea. We were all fooled, thought the ball went into center. Was it thrown? Was it not? The tag made. Wow, what an ending. What a game. Delsea wins it 4-3 in stunning fashion. The small ball, the trickery. And Delsea comes back to win it 4-3 over Audubon. Oh, man, this game had everything.
Yeah, it certainly did, including some really impressive thinking by the coaches and the players. So what happened was the pitcher wheeled around to do a pickoff play at second base, faked a throw. The second baseman dives to try to catch the phantom baseball. The shortstop does all manner of acting, including the left fielder who started running up to try to throw the phantom baseball back to the diamond. In the meantime, the runner says, oh my goodness, I got to go to third. And the pitcher was there with the ball that he did not throw. And he tagged out the runner. And the umpire was right on top of it the entire time. Baseball, you just got to love it. I know I do. This has been the Wells Report. Thanks very much for joining us today. I appreciate it. We'll keep our eyes on the Trump trial and let you know what's going on. We'll also watch Israel and Iran. What's next for that part of the world? We'll cover it right here on the Wells Report. Until tomorrow, have a great day. See you then. Okay, well, that was fun. All righty. Okay. Gary, you really got to quit, holding things in, man. You got to get these things out, when you have a chance. Hey, listen, thanks very much for watching. I'm serious. If you want to support the show financially, please do. Go to patreon.com, toss us a couple of bucks. It's half a Starbucks. And we could use that for news bucks, Wells Report bucks. Support the report. Until tomorrow, God bless you and